What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Golf Moment channel and welcome to our first episode of Tour Chat Tuesday. Similar to our Golf Moment chat show in 2020, we're going to be talking about all things PGA Tour, as well as some equipment news and many rumours going into 2021. I'll be joined by Jack today, and let's get right into the video with the Tournament of Champions. All right, so Jack, first tournament back in 2021, the Sentry Tournament of Champions at Kapalua, a course that's pretty special for a lot of reasons. What are you excited for this week?
Excited to see some big names back. You know, it's been a really pretty awful year for most of us. Luckily, the golfers on the sports that are able to continue, which helped us a lot to talk about, helps golf fans to watch it. I end up seeing some actually really exciting tournaments, although it's quite different not having fans there. Hopefully now with 2021, start easing more fans back. Some big names playing this week. I'm excited to see Justin Thomas. I think it's going to be a really big year for him. I think world number 3 at the moment, he's desperate for that number 1 spot. I think he's going to come out flying. I think he's been working quite hard during his time off over Christmas, practicing quite a lot. He won this event last year, obviously. He beat Xander Schauffele and Patrick Reed in a playoff. So really excited to watch him too. And also Collin Morikawa, a big fan of Collin. And I really think he's going to be testing that sort of top 5 bracket in the world rankings this year.
Yeah, it's an amazing field for us to watch for our first event back in 2021. For some doom and gloom there is in the UK with the national lockdown, it should make it a lot of fun with there being, I think it's the top 5 ranked players bar Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Includes Bryson DeChambeau. Obviously with the Kapalua course, there's some big drives, especially I do remember the 18th hole being that 600-yard par 5 that if you get the right drive, it goes about 400 yards with Bryson and his massive ball and clubhead speeds that I've been seeing on YouTube. I think he's hit 147 clubhead. If he gets near that on the 18th hole, we could be seeing maybe a 500-yard drive going off from him.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of winners, it's really tough to call. I've been not to pick Dustin Johnson. He's obviously the heavy favourite, but as you said, JT really does like the Hawaii stretch from here to the Sony Open. He's shoots some unbelievable scores at the start of the year, and I don't know if he would look back on 2020 with disappointment. Obviously, he had a really stellar year, but there was some kind of shaky finishes towards the end, and I don't think he did finish how he wanted to. So I'm expecting him to do pretty well, but in terms of who I pick, I can't not pick Dustin Johnson just because of how strong he is. I'm interested to see how Bryson performs, but it'll be interesting with Rahm as well. He's a tough one to kind of look at and always bet on because I don't consider him as a heavyweight just yet, because I always think that DJ and JT are a step.
No, I agree.
But maybe his move to Callaway may make that a little bit better and make him an actual heavyweight.
It'll be interesting. I think you're right. Obviously, DJ, world number 1, is, in my opinion, when he's on his game, he is miles above the rest, I think. I think when McIlroy is at his very, very best, he's close. Same with JT. I think maybe DJ's enjoyed a lot of time off over Christmas. You know, obviously he capped off a fantastic year by winning the Masters. So I think he's just really relaxed over Christmas, and rightly so. You know, all the players should. They work very hard. They've got to take some time off. He's obviously good enough to just pick up where he left off. But I think, you know, I'm not sure if he's quite ready to go there and win just yet. I think it could be JT's tournament. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how Bryson gets on with the distance. And yeah, like I said, with Rahm and his switch, it's always a tough one to call. I agree with you what you say about not quite being a heavyweight yet. You know, I always said, annoyed a few people last time when I said it, when he was world number 1, it didn't sit right with me in a weird way. No, don't get wrong, he's a European player. I love Jon Rahm, but for someone who's only won, you know, a handful of PGA Tour events and no majors just yet, of course he's, you know, Mr. Consistent in his finishes, but I just want to see him win a few more events and big events and obviously a major before I start calling him one of the big dogs.
Yeah, it's kind of that major feel that I have to it. JT and DJ have dominated at certain majors, and although Rahm is Mr. Consistent, the biggest tournament that I think people would say he's won, although he's won in Dubai, the Memorial Tournament at Jack's Place, probably the biggest one that people would agree on, still is a great tournament, but not ticking off any of the big 4 and being a world number 1 is something that people will always come back to. Will his gear change make that improve? Will that make it a bit more shaky? It's tough to call, especially for the starting months, because you always see with a lot of players, I know we talked about it previously, there's kind of a hangover for when people sign that deal, get that cash check, and then maybe, I don't know if it's mental or just having a complete change to a different set of clubs. But I'm looking back, there's so many players you can think of, and we've mentioned a few, but even when Rory McIlroy signed with Nike, and obviously he was the best in the world by a considerable distance, and then he just couldn't hit a golf ball. He was hitting duck hooks. I remember notably, I think it was at Abu Dhabi, hitting a 4-iron that went about 150 yards left. That even, I think, Neil, you would be ashamed of hitting. So shots like that, you're thinking, is that now down to mental? Is that down to a complete change in clubs? It's tough to call, really.
It can always go both ways, can't it? It was like when Rose switched to Honma. That was, in my opinion, one of the biggest equipment stories there's been for years. Honma, they're a big brand in Japan. They're trying to make their mark in Europe. It was a sort of marquee signing for them, but everyone thought, what's he doing this for? He said it was because he had more of a say of what gets designed for him, and you never really know if it's money or if that was the case. But he then went and won a tournament pretty much straight away, and everyone thought, oh, okay, he can win these clubs. But that was it. After that win, he literally plummeted until the relationship had to end. And obviously with Sergio Garcia, another Spaniard that went to Callaway, didn't work out for him. So the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and you just sort of wonder what has stemmed this move. Because there's no way that, in my opinion, TaylorMade didn't want to re-sign him. He's a world number 2. He's young. He's going to go on to win majors. He's going to go on to win a lot of tournaments and playing a lot of Ryder Cups. He was one of TaylorMade's golden boys. They would have loved to have kept him on, and I'm sure they offered him a lot of money to stay on. And then you think, it can't be a problem with equipment either, because he's world number 2. So, and also, is it money? Because Jon Rahm's worth an absolute fortune. It's a weird one for me. I'm excited to see how he gets on, but I just can't quite put my finger on what has just made him move to Callaway.
Yeah, there's always, I think, a few things you could boil it down to, as you said. But for a player like Jon Rahm, in the top 3 in the world, who is obviously an exceptional player, and I wouldn't say he's got any negatives to his game, is it him that felt like he needs to make this change? Is there something wrong with TaylorMade? Or, to put it bluntly, did he just get a massive check and decide to go for it? I imagine it's the latter, because as much as brands are different brands for professional golfers, I feel that most clubs do feel the same for them, unless they go down to the actual specifics of it and get into swing weight, certain grams of the shaft, stuff like that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the clubs itself. Probably just that, in terms of the financial point of view, he probably got a deal that he couldn't refuse. But I'm sure the thoughts that are running through our head of like, can this actually affect my golf game negatively, as it did affect Justin Rose, Sergio Garcia, the list goes on. Like, he probably had that go through his head as well. It's really tough to call. I feel like, although Rahm has a slightly iffy mental game at times on the course, I don't think he'll be affected by it too much. But we'll just have to see how he gets on. We're really interested to see, because he, as you said, is Mr. Consistent. Is that gonna? Who knows?
Well, that's the thing. This is not a Honma situation where he's not happy with the clubs. TaylorMade, in my opinion, are the top brand when it comes to clubs, and it's been working well for him. It obviously works well for DJ. It works well for Rory. There's a list of players who play fantastic golf using TaylorMade clubs. So it's not a problem, I don't think, with his iron. So like I said, it must be money. Callaway have been looking for that sort of marquee signing for a while. They've had Phil for a lifetime, it feels like, almost now. But they've never had that top European signing. They tried to get it with Sergio. It hasn't worked out since with that. So they were always going to go big for someone. For a while, I thought maybe they were going to offer Tommy a lot of money to try and tempt him to sign with the brand. Obviously, he was a free agent for a long time. He's now gone to TaylorMade. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, he said he shot a course record at one of his local clubs in Arizona. The first time he used them, he shot a 59. Whether we can believe that or not, we'll have to find out this week.
Yeah, it's a tough one. My thoughts of it is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But no one's offering me a multi-million-pound contract.
They should be.
If Callaway are watching, please do. I can't imagine my decision would be any different to Rahm. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Definitely.
Last but not least, let's have an honourable mention and discussion about Rickie Fowler. Now, Rickie Fowler last year, unfortunately, didn't have the best of years, and he fell out of the top 50 in the world. This means for him that he's currently not eligible for the Masters in 2021, but there are a few things he could do about that. Jack, you spoke to him in 2019. What do you think's missing from Rickie's game?
I think confidence is a big part of it. It's a huge part of golf. You've seen this with so many other players, you know, their rise to the top when they're feeling good, like TaylorMade, for example, now in the top 10, that confidence just grew and grew and grew. And then it also goes the other way with players like Jordan Spieth, who, you know, you could put him in a similar bracket to Rickie at the moment. Maybe he's been a little worse for a little longer, but, you know, Rickie's unfortunately going that way. When I spoke to him, he was feeling good about his game. You know, we got to watch him hit some balls, and of course, he's absolutely creaming them like he would be. His goal back then was to win a major. You know, he's widely regarded as one of the best players to have never won a major. The problem is he's going to lose that title almost, because he's now, you know, not seen as one of the best players. There was a time where he came so close to winning majors, and he was in the top 10 in the world, and everyone thought, okay, this is a serious player who's going to go on and win soon. And I actually asked him, I said to him, people, you know, find you one of the best players who've never won a major, and he agreed with the statement. So that showed his confidence in 2019 to still consider himself as one of the best players to have never won a major. Would he agree with the statement now? His confidence just looks shot. You know, even the best parts of his game look terrible. His putting. He's always been one of the most sensational putters on the PGA Tour, and it's just so cold at the moment in his game. I'd love to see him make a huge comeback. You know, he's one of my favourite players, and like he is for a lot of American fans and a lot of English fans. You know, he's an exciting player to watch. You know, he wants to win majors, but you've got to be in these majors to win them, Rickie. So hopefully he can just start improving again.
Yeah, because I think for all of us included, Rickie is one of the players that everyone has a soft spot for. He was the poster boy for Cobra for a long time, and his major statistical review from it, I think he was in the top 5 one year for every single major. So he is an exceptional player, and a lot of players do just somehow just lose it. And I agree, it's got to be some sort of mental thing to do with him, but I just don't really know what's caused it. Is it just a lull in form that's got into his head too much? I never would have thought of Rickie to be a player that is lacking confidence. He always seems like he struts around everywhere and knows what he's doing and knows what he wants to do. Could it be something to do with his swing? Maybe. I remember when Rickie first burst onto the scene, his swing was not the best to look at. It was exceptionally flat. It was a 2-play, and it was not pleasant. And then he fixed that, and now his swing is one of the best looking on tour, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. His putting, as you said, I remember him 4-putting at a tournament previous from 15 foot, and all the commentators saying that that's just not someone who's thinking about golf right now. That's someone who's thinking somewhere else and is not comfortable on the green, which is such a shame. I remember Rickie's always the one from 6 foot and in to be absolutely smashing the putts in, always.
Definitely, yeah.
And then now it just seems that he's not really got it there. It's a shame to see myself, and I'm sure you included, watch golfers that we essentially grew up watching as teenagers, from Rickie to Jordan Spieth, notably, kind of now fall off the radar a little bit. Jordan, I think, is a little bit worse, just because everything is bad. He's inconsistent in all parts of his game. I think there's been rumours when you see him on the range, he has the yips. I don't think Rickie's there, and I think Rickie, all he needs is one good tournament, maybe even just one top 10, and he's going to get there. But for him not to be in the Masters, a tournament that he performs so well at, is weird to say, really. I always think Rickie has to be there. Rickie has to be in every tournament. We just before this were saying, is he in the tournament this week at the Tournament of Champions? And of course he's not in it.
Can't win.
So it's weird to think of it, because I'm always thinking Rickie as a top 10 player, as someone who's in the top 10 rankings in the world consistently. I would always be someone who would probably think, I'm going to put £5 on Rickie for a tournament because he's always great odds. But now he's fallen so far off it that he could honestly become a forgotten name in 2022 if he doesn't perform, which is something that I never thought I'd be saying a year ago, because I thought 2020 was going to be his year. But unfortunately, it was no one's year apart from Bryson's, really. So so yeah, it's a tough one to think about, really. But I think he's going to do well. I think all he needs is a good tournament, and he's got to find that spark in him that I think we all know he has.
The signs have been there. I mean, I think we saw a stat which is incredible. I don't think he's missed a Masters since turning professional. I think he's played in 10 consecutive Masters tournaments. So a Masters without Rickie would, for me, be, you know, it's unfortunate. Not saying that I always sit down just to watch Rickie at the Masters, but it's one of the major reasons I like watching him in majors. Like I said, his performances usually in majors are fantastic. But the signs are there. He's had a few rounds in tournaments where you go, oh, okay, here he comes. You know, you sort of see him in that top 10 bracket after day one. You think, is this the tournament? You know, or you'll see him go to a course that you know he loves, and you think, okay, maybe this is the place. You constantly give him that chance. And I think if you compare it with Spieth, you know, Spieth has struggled pretty much all tournament in most of the tournaments he's been playing in.
Yeah.
Ricky has showed the signs that it's there. He's just got to put 4 together and try and find the win. Like you said, he's got time. He's got a few different ways that he can qualify. He's got a few months on his hands, so just fingers crossed he can pull through and break that top 50 and book his place at Augusta.
Yeah, there's a few players that I'm thinking of now that didn't have the best year in 2020, and the more I think about it, the more I'm like, is it just because of what 2020 was? Is it because of just how disgusting 2020 was for everyone involved? I mean, us talking about it right now, we're both locked in our houses, can't go outside, and obviously golfers have it a little bit nicer in that they do play professional golf, but the negative impact of COVID-19, I'm sure it would have affected professional golfers and professional sportsmen alike. So perhaps it's an adjustment that Rickie hasn't made. Like this is me just hazarding a guess. Could be other things, but it will be interesting to see, hopefully in the next few months or 6 months, if things get back to a shade of normality, then what happens to the professional golf roster? Because there are certain people, let's say Rickie, Brooks, McIlroy, who had pretty under par in a bad way 2020. And could that just be down to the impact that COVID has had on professional golf? Could it be something else? I'm not sure, but it's going to be such a strange outlook onto 2021 because of just so many things, from COVID to golfers not performing well to the dominance that we've seen of Bryson, of DJ. Can that continue? I'm looking at every single tournament now and I can't see DJ or Bryson not winning it. I feel like Morikawa winning his PGA Championship, it feels so long ago, because since then we've had the dominance of the smashes of DJ and Bryson, and I can't really think of anyone not winning a tournament other than them now. So there's so many things to think about going into 2021. And this is obviously just going off on a complete tangent because we started on Rickie Fowler, but there's just so many things that could change the whole professional golf outlook going into 2021, from long hitters to COVID to crowds being back to the drop off of professional players like McIlroy, Brooks, Spieth, Fowler. It's going to be an absolutely crazy year, and saying that from me saying that from my kitchen, it shows just how crazy the year is going to be.
Definitely. I think one more point, like you said there, all the factors of the year. I think crowds coming back would be massive for Rickie. I think he's in that bracket with Rory McIlroy as players who have really struggled without fans being there. You think, they're professional golfers, they should be able to deal with it. People like Brooks and Bryson, before, only when Bryson started changing his body, he got a lot more attention. He was never one of the most liked people by golf fans. Dustin, fantastic player, got a lot of fans, but he's never been the most exciting player to go and watch in terms of his character and personality. It's no fault of his own, it's just his character. People like Rory McIlroy and Rickie Fowler attract a lot of fans. They get players screaming their name. When Rickie's playing in front of fans, he always gets them going. Ryder Cups, he likes to hear people like screaming on that first tee. He doesn't like the silence. So he's one of those players that really feeds off energy. So not having them has obviously really taken it out of him. Same with Rory McIlroy, I think. So the more we start to see fans back, I think then maybe Rickie's game will start to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right, guys, that was the first episode of Tour Chat Tuesday with myself and Jack. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for future content from the Golf Mate channel. Myself and Jack will see you next week.